Girls Frontline 2 should change its gacha system. Not likely. We all can agree that the 0.8 is the worst part about Girls Frontline 2 by far. By far, is dog shit. But I'm curious to see what his reasons are, right? Every game trying to copy the Hoyo model is just stupid, bro. Now, it works fantastically financially speaking, right, for these companies, but at the end of the day, you are losing trust over time in exchange for profit, which that's what they care about. They don't care about anything else. They're making a gacha to begin with.
So I got a lot of comments on my last video, and
Let me increase the volume for this. There we go, that should be more.
surprisingly, just about everyone there had a pretty informed take. Yeah, I've read just about every comment. It's why I'm making this video as a follow-up. But to give a brief overview, I talked about Girls Frontline 2's potential being unrealized. During that video, I talked about how, even though Girls Frontline 1's very messy as a game, it has elements about it that made it truly unique, and taking elements from that game could...
Now, to be honest, they went from like one of the worst, not worst, it's really old, so it shows. Like, it does show on the gameplay and everything, right? They went from this to Girls Frontline 2, which is already pretty fucking good.
Frontline 2. An example of this was giving our dolls more customization options through common keys. Going this route would also allow the development team to go crazy on maps, since players would have more tools to work with. Now, I would say there was two overwhelming perspectives in the comments of that video. The first is people saying they don't like the idea, whether it be because they like how low stress the game is right now,
yes,
or they simply don't trust the dev team to make it work without screwing it up. And this is a completely fair answer. I don't completely agree with it, but I'm not going to argue against it.
I mean, you already have like a lot of game modes if you want to try hard, if you want to see, or if you want to play more the game. You have your hordes, you have your weekly bosses, you have your gang smoke. There's like plenty of things if you want to play more. It's not like amazing design-wise on the maps, but it's still better than just the auto campaign and events, right?
At the end of the day, it's just a difference in preference. Now, the second perspective from comments I've seen is this wouldn't work at all without breaking how the game works right now. Because the way how Mika went about this is they put a lot of power into the dolls themselves. So if you want more complexity in the game, it'll be through the dolls and not anywhere else. Once the dev team releases enough dolls to cover every element, that's when they'll be more likely to add another
physical
layer of complexity. And this video is to address that perspective, because I 100% agree with it. As of right now, there's too much power within the dolls, but this is with a purpose. If the only way to improve the power of your account is to raise your dolls, then your only real option is to pull on banners. This is a monetization strategy, pure and simple. Now, I'll go on record and say I really hate the gacha system in this game. I really hate it. The 50-50 system, or perhaps it's better to just call it the Hoyoverse banner system, is one of the worst gacha systems you can implement in your game. Mika has found ways to make the system feel more generous, but I can't help but think they didn't really understand how the banner system worked when they first implemented it.
I think it's not that it's more generous. They do give more resources overall, a little bit more. It's not like they give a lot more than, let's say, Honkai Star Rail, right? But the shop feels a lot better if you also want to be spending or buying stuff rather than just getting your monthly card and your battle pass. Because that's what Hoyo does the worst. It's not the 50-50. It's not being stingy. It's not being able to even spend a little bit of money to actually get all the characters. In Girls Frontline 2, as a low spender, like minimum, right? Like monthly card and maybe battle pass, you can get most of the characters in the game. As long as you don't get ultra mega shafted, right? Even as a free to play, you are just going for the characters, not the weapons. You can be getting most of the characters. But then again, the 0.8% is stupid. Like trying to emulate the Hoyo formula is retarded. I don't see why gacha companies don't see that. No one likes that system. Everyone criticizes it, and they are like, what can we do for our new gacha game, Azur Promilia? What will be the rates, guys? I wonder.
I'm pretty sure at this point everyone knows the system was popularized by Hoyoverse, beginning with Genshin Impact. They made a ton of money off the system, but there was an insurmountable circumstance that made this work. Genshin lost in 2020, the same year when the entire world couldn't go outside for 2 years. This by itself allowed Genshin Impact to boom in popularity and profits. This isn't...
We could go one day more in depth into Hoyo and their success, because clearly they benefited a lot from the pandemic, from coronavirus. But it was not the only reason. Like, up until that point, there was no good gacha game. There was no open world gacha game. There were no gacha games that were good quality wise, that the production value was as high as Genshin. Now, clearly, it was like perfect time to release it, right? But they are not the only company, like Ark says, who benefited from coronavirus, or is not the only reason for their success, if you will.
Isn't the only reason why the game was successful, but I would argue Hoyoverse would not have become mainstream if it were not for this timing. All of this to say
I
is
disagree.
Hoyoverse's
Okay.
gacha system is inherently bad, but it doesn't matter when literally millions of people are playing your game. It's pretty easy to see Frontline 2 does not have this luxury,
What's
and it'd be
this?
simple to look
Snowbreak?
at Snowbreak, their primary competitor, and how they had to pivot away from the Hoyoverse system because it wasn't generating enough.
But Snowbreak is not a competitor to Gerson like 2 like anyway. They are like vastly different, quality wise and in everything. But okay, yeah, we could put them at a similar level, at least in China, where all of the Raymond haters went to Snowbreak.
Enough money by itself. Now, let's be real. Ghost Frontline 1 and Project Neuro Cloud makes negative dollars in profit. To this day, we have no idea how these games are being funded.
The founder has a lot of money, their family has even more money, and they are funding it through that. They don't need to be making millions every month. And to begin with, Girls Frontline 2 is more expensive development-wise. Maintaining gacha games is cheap. Maintaining servers is cheap. People are overestimating how expensive it is, because when people talk about how expensive art is or how expensive all of these things are, they are not subcontracting. They are not hiring a fucking artist from somewhere and just co-commissioning it. No, they have employees full-time, which is a lot cheaper. And once again, the development in these countries, it's pretty fucking bad conditions for game development. You don't need a lot of money to sustain these games. A lot of people believe that you need millions every single month to be profitable, when the reality is that you don't. And the easiest example for this is other companies, like for example Grinding Gear Games. They've been profitable since forever. They make good money. They make nowhere near the amount of money gacha games make. And this is a really good game. A gacha server is an MMO server? Yeah. It's not even real time for like 99% of the things that you are requesting to the server. And the security for these gacha games, for the most part, is dog shit. You all know how much hackers will get into every gacha game. But it's not expensive to maintain these games. It's pretty cheap. Pretty cheap, right? All things considered.
Because it's not from us. Ghost Frontline 2 is actually Mika's first gacha game that is making profit worthy of a gacha game. So I know
I can agree, but again, worthy of what we consider profit or good profit. It's not like, the other games that are making nothing. Girls Frontline, the normal one, costs no fucking money to maintain. Okay, look at that game. It's mostly adding new characters and new skins, and you have like a couple writers. And same for Neural Cloud. The quality of the chivis is not that high. It's cheap to maintain. Add a couple characters per month, and that's it. Because your artists are not making 100k per month on China, a country known for absolutely awful working conditions when it comes to the programming industries, the game dev industries, and everything else with their 6 what was it called, 667 or some bullshit? Like, no, it's not even 667. Like, they're working Monday to Sunday or Monday to I don't know, like 7 days a week, bro. Way too many hours.
it may have felt like I just went on a needless rant, but I promise it's important to know this for what I'm about to say. The Hoyoverse banner system relies the most on selling characters. Anyone who uses this system 100% commits to that. This means the game has to sell you the character as hard as they can every time their banner is incoming. If they don't sell you the character, then they're going to have a bad month. This is why they chose to not add any systems that could customize your dolls to handle multiple situations. If there's any chance that we as players can make teams that wouldn't require us to pull on new banners, that's less money for them. It's also why units like Mosinagant and Parita feel so underpowered at V0. They lock the bulk of their power behind dupes, which incentivizes you even further to pull on banners. But there's a major problem with this banner system that I haven't talked about yet.
But that's not exclusive for these new characters. This has been since day one. Like, since day one, the characters, a lot of the power is locked behind the dupes. You do not need the extra power for nothing. I've cleared everything on auto in Girls Frontline 2, minus a specific couple of stages that you need to manual because the auto is retarded. Not talking about the end game modes, because I ignore those. campaign, events, everything else. Like you can clear most of the normal content, no problem with the B0 characters. But this has been something from day one. It's not something new. Even Klukai, you need multiple copies if you want her to be what people are showing you on YouTube or what we were showing earlier, right? Like with that B6 Klukai.
And that's how it can easily collapse the power creep. I'm not going to go on a rant about this one because it feels self-explanatory. If you are truly interested in learning more about it, then just look up the mini videos on what people are dealing with right now in Honkai Star Rail and Zenless Zone Zero. But the reason why this is not as much of a problem in
But that's because it's too much drama in those communities, all right? There is too much useless drama in those communities.
other types of gacha systems is because the unit is not the star of the show. Fire Emblem Heroes is a great example of this. Power creep is extremely rampant in that game.
It's my first time seeing Fire Emblem Heroes gameplay. I've seen the art because it's pretty easy to recognize. But it's my first time seeing the gameplay. What the fuck is this? Should we play? Should we play Fire Emblem Heroes?
Yet it consistently makes millions of dollars each month for the past 8 years. Some would say this is because it's part of an established IP, but I don't think so, because the game would have 100% died on its first year if it didn't make some pivotal changes that made it one of the most customizable experiences I've ever seen in any game in general, which is that you can summon for the latest and greatest unit, and then choose to delete that unit from your roster and transfer their skills to one of your favorite units to make them more powerful. This is genuinely an insane idea, but it worked. Because
that is a cool ass system. We need to play the game. We'll play it next week. See what's going on for a week, right? Check the gacha and how bad it is, probably, because if this is a JP IP, it's not gonna be a good system, but we'll see.
Now, many players would rather build up their favorites and stretch the limits to as far as they possibly can, instead of chasing for the new and shiny toy. So instead of pulling out your wallet to get the new unit, you instead do so to get a new and more powerful skill. This 100% does not work under a Hoyoverse model.
But also, to be fair, the IP is popular. It plays a role, like it or not, on how it stays alive even to this day. And I think it's a JP IP, correct me if I'm wrong, but JP IPs are completely different and should not be used as a reference for nothing. That's like saying Monster Strike is a good gacha game. That's like saying FGO is a good gacha game because, it has stayed alive until this point. They are not good examples because the JP community is its own beast, let's say, right? Its own beast when it comes to keeping gacha games alive.
You would not get the supplies to make this work. So, Fire Emblem Heroes enjoys banners that have relatively high rates, and they give out free units regularly. And to those who actually play Fire Emblem Heroes, yeah, I know. They screwed up in recent years when they started making abilities that would be locked to new units. But it doesn't change the fact that players have chosen to spend tons and tons of money to keep their favorite units relevant throughout the meta. Girls Frontline 2 does not have this luxury. If they release a unit that power creeps the roster, you effectively obliterated the game, because now the game's balance has to be adjusted to account for that, which in turn creates a hurdle that older units have to overcome. Suomi at V1 was the first instance of this. She undoubtedly power crept all healers. Kukai at V6 is going to do the same thing for DPS. The only saving grace is you have to get her to V6, but she still obliterates the game's balance regardless. When the dev team finally starts to make content that will challenge a V6
it sucks.
Even the V6 outside of clearing content, like 4 bosses, is not gonna be saving you. It's gonna be an expense that, normal single target DPSs will outperform everywhere. She's not like this saving grace. But even though we all can agree that the system is bad because every gacha encourages power creep over the time, right? Like over the years, you need to release stronger characters if you want people to keep spending money, keep getting those characters. Absolutely. But no gacha company will change this because they are making gacha games. If they cared enough about telling their story and actually showing it to you, they would not be making a gacha game to begin with. Like, I can agree, but at the same time, it's like, sadly, they don't care.
Personally, I can only hope to make a course correct sooner rather than later. They need to reset the power scale and then add more subsystems to put less emphasis on pulling on banners and getting dupes. I played too many gacha games to know where this is going, and I don't think a new difficulty mode is going to solve this problem.
Only the 3 MB update evolved into a 1 GB update.
Fortunately, I have been playing the Chinese version, and I can say upfront that Mika is in an experimental phase right now. They are definitely trying new things. There's a permanent game mode in there that may actually be better than the normal game itself, and it's already incentivizing you to have a diverse roster. That said, it still feels...
Okay, I'm gonna be honest here, okay? The Tarkov game mode in Girls Frontline 2 is dog shit. Now, he might enjoy this game mode more, and that's completely fine. The only game mode that I've enjoyed that they've added recently to the Chinese version was the anniversary roguelike. That roguelike was fun. You could actually take useless units and carry you through the whole roguelike experience. You could take an Ulrich with your fire team, and she will be destroying the bosses, chilling in there forever. Or a nice team, and to pick like a useless character from the bottom tier or an SR girl, doesn't matter, and you could be able to use them. That's like the only game mode I've enjoyed recently that they've added. The roguelike one, I played on release, never touched the game. I was like, nah, I heavily dislike this one. But again, preferences, nothing else.
Feels pretty undercooked and needs more time. I don't think Mika is totally clueless about the state of the game right now. They are trying to expand the repertoire while attempting to maintain the accessibility that comes from the main campaign. The upcoming update is also going to be a big quality of life patch, and we're getting these a lot sooner than when China got it. So speaking as an optimist, they do seem to have a pulse on the community. It may just be a matter of waiting and seeing what they cook up, but regardless, I do think it would be cause for mass celebration if they revamp their banner system once they got all their ducks in a row. But that's just me. Now I'm interested in seeing what you guys have to say. Do you think the banner
I don't think they will ever revamp the banner system. I also think, in contrast to Hoyo, Girls Frontline 2 is a lot better. We are getting constant reruns, which again, yes, they incentivize pulling for dupes, and we all can agree is a bad system when you design a character and then strip away parts from that character and put it on the dupes rather than just increasing flat power. I think that's one of the things Nikke did pretty well. And they didn't plan on the game doing too well, and that's why they introduced the treasures, why they're introducing other stuff that requires you to have more dupes. Because Nikke only gives you 2% flat combat power for every dupe. Lost Sword we're playing right now gives you like a 20% every single dupe, which is a lot, but still, it's just that flat increase. Nikke is 2. I prefer that over the Girls Frontline 2 system by far. But at least Girls Frontline 2 is constantly doing reruns. And even old characters, like for example, Suomi has gotten multiple reruns. The new characters, after 3 banners, you are getting them again and you can pull for them. It is not an amazing system, but at least they are not Hoyo, where you can be waiting for a year for a character in order to get them. And now they started doing 2 reruns instead of 1 because there is more characters. So you can go for the new character, or if you don't like them, you can go for the previous one if you didn't get them. Still, it's FOMO. Absolutely, it's trash. Let us say Gacha company.
banner system is bad for Girls Frontline 2? Or is it fine and it's just a matter of giving the devs more time? I would love to know your opinion on that. And for those wondering, yes, I am still working on the next episode for the Girls Frontline 1 summary series. I'm hoping it'll be done either this weekend or next week. Thanks for watching. So
I almost went to the other side. I think the system is not the worst, right? Not the worst system. Let me put the video here, guys, so you can go check it. The only thing that I do not like about Girls Frontline 2 is the base rate. The 0.8 is stupid. Copying Hoyo on those things is retarded. I feel like nowadays, for me, everything below a 2% is I don't want to touch it. The only exception so far has been Girls Frontline 2 because the skins are cheap, the shop is cheap, and I can get all characters as a light spender. If I couldn't, if it was the same shop as Hoyo, I wouldn't touch Girls Frontline 2 either. Neither the Chinese version nor the global one. But still, sadly, a lot of gachas could benefit from that system of actually making your characters more powerful or taking skills and inheriting them from other characters. I don't think it's going to happen because gacha companies like their money. They like their money.
役立たずは楽園から追放するのみ。ブランとノワールのショータイムです。
天地万物を切るとはこういうことだ。